And away we go. It is the BCJ podcast presented by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com. If you're not going to Fayetteville and you need a place to watch the game, you know where we're going to be. We'll be at the Holy Grail downtown at the Banks. Stop on down. Might want to get there a little early. It's gonna be a busy one. It's an incredible college football Saturday. Get down there, get your spot, and make sure you're ready to watch the Bearcats take on Arkansas. 3:30. Be there or be square. I will be there. I guess Aaron won't be there. He'll probably be in Arkansas or something, along with Brent. Dave doesn't come to these things. So
bad luck.
It's bad luck. You came to one and they lost, right? Is that how it worked?
Temple,
2019?
19? I don't even
18
remember.
maybe?
Overtime, I think.
Yeah. No, they lost.
Yeah.
I remember. I was there.
Taft's.
Yep. And you vowed in that moment that you would never come to one again.
And they basically never lost since.
Yeah, they haven't lost since. I was joking about that with Tony today. Tony and I did the watch parties together, have done the watch parties together for 2 years at the Grail, and they haven't lost. I'm like, you can't not come tomorrow or Saturday, Tony. If you do and they lose, it's on Tony.
Yeah, see, it's just never going to be my fault ever again.
Right. All right, Dave. We have a lot to get to.
Yeah, for those that, say our podcasts can go too long at times, this one might not be for you.
We actually did, kind of a pre-show rundown of how we wanted this thing to go. And that was long. Well, at least longer than our normal pre-show rundowns.
There's a lot going on. I mean, yes, part of the reason is we are waiting to do the season preview till now because we couldn't do it last week. So that would have taken up a big chunk of content and time. But yeah, we're going to cram it all into tonight, and we're going to go and we'll see what time this bad boy wraps up.
I have radio tomorrow. So let's get it done at least so I can get to bed at a reasonable hour.
Hey, I'm all about that.
Okay. Yeah. Let's start. So we're going to talk Arkansas first, preview Arkansas first. I know that's, what a lot of people are here for this week. And then we're going to do our season preview where we go through and make predictions on all of the games. And then we're going to talk all the stuff that went down today. Most of the stuff that went down today. We might save some of the rule stuff for Aaron and I tonight on the nightcap just to remove something from here that we can place somewhere else. So yeah. Let's get to it. Also, on the YouTube channel, check out Reagan Yoakum, who's our new employee. She has posted her first 2-minute warning, which is the name of her news show that's going to be on all our social networks. So make sure you check that out and give Reagan Yoakum a like and a follow on Twitter and Instagram and all that good stuff. So welcome in, Reagan. Good to have your first piece up, and we are excited to have you. Let's get this rolling. Dave.
Yes.
Arkansas's top 25 team.
They are.
They are very good.
I'll get into that.
They have a quality quarterback.
They do.
They have an offensive line that returns 4 starters.
Correct.
I like Sam Pittman as a coach. I think he's very good. I think he is putting together something at Arkansas that's going to be a lot more sustainable than some of the things that they have tried to do over the past couple years. But they open up with the Bearcats. We've joked about Luke Fickell not being happy to have to do this. How mad is Sam Pittman? Like,
well, he's got to be pretty mad because I mean, our fans might not know this, but not only do they open up with UC, they have an October trip to BYU.
yeah.
Who scheduled that for them? Like, why are you doing that? You have
In the middle of SEC, like, what are you doing?
why are you like? Obviously, UC. When this was scheduled, no one could have anticipated them coming off of a college football playoff trip. But like they were trending up, and then so you do that, and then you also slam a game in Provo right in the middle of SEC season. Like,
well, I think from the UC perspective, I think the only thing that Luke would potentially be upset about is just game one, right? Like, I don't think they mind a game at Arkansas. I mean, you want a home and home, obviously, if you're Luke, but I'm talking specifically this year. The only thing that if you're a coach is kind of annoying is that you got to do it right out of the gate. But I don't think, given the last year in the American and what you need to do to boost the schedule when you're at this level, I don't think there's any problem playing Arkansas or going to Arkansas. Just doing it in week one. If you're Sam Pittman, you're looking at your athletic director going, what the hell are we doing? I
don't even have a problem with it. Like, I have zero. Like, I don't even know what the big problem would be from UC.
Just because you're replacing so much and
yeah,
you'd like to maybe get a game under your belt.
But 2 years ago, you weren't, when it was scheduled, what, in 2019 or 2018, something like that?
Yeah. I'm just talking about in the moment.
Yeah, you weren't going to the Big 12. You looked at a over $1 million payday. Like, I don't know what would be a more ideal first. Like, yes, they might lose. And if you're just looking at it black and white, like, do they win, do they lose? Sure, you could play a whole bunch of teams and just get a W.
Right.
But, like, I mean, it's not like they're going to Ohio State or going to Georgia or Alabama.
I'm just saying, you know how coaches think. They hate having these games week one.
I know. I think it's good. I don't. You
whatever. Also don't have $5 million on the line every year.
Oh, he's just like lose this game. We're gonna go like 4-8.
No, but you know how coaching works. Real quick, Joffrey. I hope you feel better, bud. I hate to hear that.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Ed. Thank you, Steven. Have a great stream tonight. That's right, Daniel. Game week. Let's ride, baby. I did review the sauce today.
How was it?
So at first, it's kind of okay.
So like everything else at B-Dubs?
But it's got kind of a lingering heat to it that after you eat like the second or third one, you're like, oh, okay, there's a little oomph to it.
Yeah. So you're saying is I should get naked wings from Roosters and put some sauce on it.
Probably. But it was good. I gave it like a mid to high 7.
Okay. I mean, I'm the straight up hot guy.
Yeah. So I mean, I think the thing with it is, I don't think necessarily that I would like order it right away. But what?
Never fails. 8 o'clock. Yeah, it's not like this. It's not like this is new.
It's my wife. It's not even the kid. She's just standing on the other side of the monitor.
Only been doing this specific podcast for like 4 years.
She couldn't come in to get something off my desk 5 minutes ago. Jeez. And then like I'm not supposed to react. Like I'm just supposed to keep talking as if she's not just standing there on the other side of the monitor. Callie Taylor said hello. There you go, Taylor. But yeah, it was, it's not something like when I'm not like 2 days from now, I'm not going to be like, I got to go get some more.
Go get some more. Right.
But it will be like, depending on how long they have it.
Yeah. I imagine for the
I'd order
season,
it again.
Right.
Well, they said it was limited edition, so limited run. So
I mean, I would like to try it. I'm not a huge fan of everything they provide, have in general, especially their wings. They're like tiny baby chicken wings.
No, these were actually the one in Kenwood. The wings were huge.
Maybe they upped their game.
I was
the
shocked.
last
Like
time I've been there.
They were meaty. They were big, meaty wings. I was like, huh, they don't do these at the ones in Northern Kentucky.
Yeah.
The one in Kenwood was pretty quality. And it said my order was going to be done in 30 minutes. It was done in like 12.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah, I mean, I'm willing to try it once. I mean, support the sauce, man.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It wasn't great, but it was good. Crypt Keeper, how you doing? Hello, Holly. Welcome to the show. Most likely on day 5 or 6 of symptoms. Yeah. Well, I hope you're feeling better, bud. Burn it all down. How you doing? And hot garlic, Joffrey says. It's well, Carolina Gold is my favorite wing sauce. Like, I'm a Carolina Gold guy. And especially at places like Wild Mike's and Nuck and Futz, where you can get any level of heat that you want. You pick the sauce, and then you also pick the level of heat. So that's where we're at. All right, back to Arkansas. I'm sorry.
Arkansas.
Just wanted to get the chat. I didn't want to get too behind.
Well, hey, tonight is a night, like, if you really want us to
you're going to have to
pay attention to the chat, you're going to have to pay up.
Yeah, I wanted to get that in too. And also, while you're here, like and subscribe. If you haven't done that yet, what the hell are you waiting on? But if you're new, like and subscribe. Okay, back to Arkansas. Sorry.
Arkansas.
That's
the
on me.
Hogs.
The Hogs.
Where do you want me to start? I got a lot of notes for this one.
I mean, let's start with quarterback. Let's start with offense. Let's start with what does Cincinnati need to do to slow down a Briles offense led by a 6'4", 240-pound quarterback.
Yeah. KJ Jefferson, 4 interceptions on almost 300 attempts, 67% on his passes, which is pretty darn good for a that dual type threat of an offense. 660 rushing yards last year, 6 touchdowns. Total real deal. Was their leading rusher in 3 games. As we mentioned already, returning 4 offensive linemen. The question is that's going to hang over UC and hangs over any team that is not, even it's not just in the SEC. Like, this question hangs over almost everybody else. Like, is the formula just going to be, we're just going to try to bully you. We're going to try to smash you. And, can you withstand that? I do have, it's interesting though. Like, I coming into this, I've been of the mind pretty consistently, like, was going to pick Arkansas, and I might still pick Arkansas for several reasons. 80,000 fans, first game of the year. You see quarterback situation. I wouldn't call it in flux, but you're obviously not returning a 4-year starter. A lot of replacements defensively. We feel confident about some of the replacements, but a lot of unanswered questions. The more I dug into it, the more I'm kind of wondering why everybody is so high on Arkansas.
Okay.
So, KJ Jefferson, dude, offensive line, dudes, big dudes, Ricky Stromberg, first team all SEC center. I think it's Bradley Latham, third team all SEC guard. So, like, those are draftable guys for sure. If you're first and third team offensive lineman in the SEC.
Drafted. Yeah.
Running back, like everybody talks about, top 10 rushing offense from last year. Leading rusher from last year, gone, transferred to UTSA. Second leading rusher from last year, out, has missed every spring practice or every fall practice, is not going to play. 600 yards, 7 touchdowns.
And that's kind of their bruiser, like, physical back, right?
Yeah. So then you're left with the 2 guys, Sanders and Green. They were their third. I mean, and we're just pulling all these stats from last year because we have nothing to go off of. Third and fifth leading rushers last year in the season. Green led them in rushing one game against Georgia at 28 yards when they lost 37-0. So, like, I'm trying to look at these running backs and going, okay, like a lot of it is, a little bit like you see in the sense of like, yeah, we think they're good, but these guys haven't done anything magical. I mean, these guys are 300 to 500 yard last season type running backs.
Right.
So I think the offense still revolves around KJ Jefferson's running ability.
You know who also gained 300 to 500 yards last year in the SEC?
Corey Kiner.
Yep.
So, so you have that element of it where I'm sure they're excited about it, but like you lose your two leading rusher, or KJ Jefferson was actually their leading rusher. So if we're just talking about running back rushers, you're losing like your second and third or second and fourth. I'm not sure exactly how it broke down, but like who would probably be your 1A, 1B type guys aren't going to be playing. And then you have Treylon Burks that's gone, that accounted for 66 catches, over 1,100 yards, and 11 touchdowns. So, like, that is very hard to replace at the college level year to year.
He's a monster. He was a monster.
And he did a ton of it out of the slot where they would RPO you to death. He's a big body dude. He'd get on a slot, a linebacker or a safety, and it was just a total mismatch situation.
Right.
So none of their returning receivers had more than 2 touchdowns last year. Their leading returning wide receiver had 19 catches for 300 yards, and their second leading returning receiver was a tight end that had 20 catches for 140 yards. Mm-hmm. Now, they did bring in Matt Landers from Toledo, who got to Toledo from Georgia, who had a nice year at Toledo. Big play guy, like 20 catches, 500 yards, 5 touchdowns. Jaden Hazelwood from Oklahoma, another 5-star guy, 39 for 406. So, like, those guys are going to be kind of what I imagine are their go-to. Hazelwood in the slot is an interesting one because they're the one thing that does concern me, not one thing, but a thing that concerns me about the receivers is they're big. They have 6'3", 6'5", 6'3", are their likely starting receivers. So they're putting a 6'3" guy in the slot where, UC's putting and most teams are putting a 5'9" to 5'11" guy in the slot.
Yeah, but a guy to make plays in space.
Yeah. But where is the connection with those guys? I mean, I assume they came in for the spring. I know Hazelwood has been banged up. It sounds like he's going to go, but he was in a non-contact jersey at some point this week. So what is his full status? Hard to say. Brady Latham, kind of same thing. Sounds like he's a go, but if he isn't or something happens, they're moving a backup right tackle to left guard. And, I'm just – what they want to do, I actually think plays into UC's – I'm not going to call it revamped defense, but, like, I'm much more confident against the run this year than I was last year. I think
we talked about it just stylistically. Like, you've got guys that should be better at the point of attack than the 2 guys last year in Brooks and Majay that were speed, quickness. They weren't, pure power point of attack guys.
Yes. So, can you get KJ Jefferson to turn the ball over? In an RPO offense, it's hard to get interceptions because, a lot of it is the read and then he goes or whatever. So it's not like he's back there scanning the field and going to a third. He's kind of just picking his guy and going. Can you get him to turn the ball over? They did allow I think he was sacked 27 times. They allowed 30 sacks last year.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's 80th in the country. Now, granted, those numbers pile up quick when tons of teams have 26 and then 27. So, like, UC gave up 26 sacks and was kind of middle of the road. So, only 4 sacks different gets you all the way into the 80s. But to me, this is all about, like, what do you let KJ Jefferson do? Do you let him get 60 to 80 yards rushing? Or do you keep him in the 30s, 40s? Do you let him hit that 67 to 70% passing rate, or do you keep him down more in the 60 to 65? Can you get an interception? How many sacks can you get? Like, none of their receivers really scare me. The only reason they would scare me is I don't know exactly what to expect from our corners. But just looking at them as players, I'm not like, this guy's a freaking dude, and I really wish we had Sauce.
We'd be a lot more concerned if it was a year ago and going against Treylon Burks.
Exactly. I mean, that's a bona fide.
They have the leading rusher or the leading receiver from Oklahoma.
Jaden Hazelwood. Yeah, he'll be in the slot. He wasn't even. I mean, he was not their leading receiver at Oklahoma.
Leading yards, I think.
Not at 399.
That's what I've seen multiple people say. He was the leading.
There's no way the leading receiver at Oklahoma.
Or maybe the leading return would have been the leading returning
yards.
Maybe would have been the leading returning receiver.
I mean, he might have been, but
Reed says he thinks their wide receivers are going to be way better than we think. In game one,
but they haven't shown it to be. So how I can't be like, oh yeah, they're going to be great based on what?
Well, he thinks.
Yeah, well, I think they're going to be okay.
Oh boy.
But like, I don't know. They're very hard for me to read because again, first game, you can't just go off of last year. Like that's not fair. You know, we're not going off of last year for UC because it's a totally different season. But like,
so I'm a little confused because I was on with Mo yesterday, in the 5 o'clock hour from 5 to 6, and before I came on, he had the radio voice.
Yeah, I heard some of that.
And all he talked about was like they were returning the exact same team from last year. Like, he said that like 4 times.
I mean, they're not.
I know. Like I was sitting there scratching my head, Dave. Like, what, they returned the quarterback and most of the offensive line, so that means they're returning the entire offense?
They're losing. They lost their all-world receiver. Treylon Smith was their leading rusher in 4 games. Was the second leading rusher behind KJ Jefferson. He transferred. Dominique Johnson had 600 yards and 7 touchdowns, which was the most rushing touchdowns of anybody on their team. He's not playing. So, like, I
didn't get this narrative that, like, you know, that they were some like they were Cincinnati last year, where everybody but like 5 guys was back.
Yeah, I just don't see it offensively. I mean, and everything might be great because KJ Jefferson's awesome, and that's a very college football thing. Like, I'm not, you know, I can't see this offense going up and down the field against UC.
Yeah.
You know, if we want to go to, like, you know, I refer to it a lot, SP Plus, Bill Conley, ESPN. It's a very, very close game. He's got Arkansas 14th to UC 16th. He's got in the final, like, preseason rankings.
Yeah.
Arkansas's offense 22nd. This is the other one I don't get. He's got their defense 18th. I'm going to get to defense. I don't see that at all. And he's got UC's offense 16th and the defense 29th. And I know why he's got the defense 29th. It's just you're just replacing a ton of production. And production goes into that number. And, you know, so I get it. You can't, without seeing them do things, you can't really, like, keep them at the same level. You can't be like, oh, yeah, I've never seen half these guys play, but they're just going to be as good as a first-round pick, a second-round pick, a fourth-round pick. I think, what was a fourth-round pick, like a sixth-round pick. Like, you can't just assume. So I get that part. I don't really get the 18th defense for Arkansas. So
let's get to the Arkansas defense, I guess. I guess that's the the next logical place to go.
Yeah, they have two bona fide dudes. Bumper Pool.
Great name.
Second
Elite
team.
name.
Awesome name. Second team All SEC linebacker, over 100 tackles, and then Jalen Catalon. What is he? What do I got him? First team All SEC safety. So I mean, he's a legit Catalon. I think he
missed most of last year.
Yeah,
right?
I think like half the games. He's a legit, like, first, second round player.
Right. He's Kyle Hamilton essentially.
So how does
good.
I think he is. He reminds me of like Brian Cook. Like he wants to come up and lay the wood, but he also misses a lot of tackles.
That wasn't Brian Cook.
No, that part wasn't. But the wanting to knock your head off part is. But the interesting thing though is that they also run a lot of 3-3-5, and they'll even get into a 3-2-6. And the place that I feel UC can truly exploit and has a pretty big advantage is that they are replacing all three of their starting defensive linemen, which includes John Ridgway, who's been their nose for the last several years, was drafted by the Cowboys. We know, because we run a 3-3-5, how important the nose position is. So I think UC can have some success running the ball against them. With the offensive line and the different styles of running backs, they brought in a lot of transfers for D-line depth. Landon Jackson from LSU. He's a young guy, so like no stats really last year. Terry Hampton, a guy from Arkansas State. He was pretty good in 2000, but played about half the games last year, got hurt. And then Jordan Dominic had a good year last year for Georgia Tech in 8 starts, 5.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. So that's their depth. But like, I'm looking at their projected starters. You got a guy, these are obviously last year's stats, but I'm just using them for reference. 7 tackles, no sacks. Projected left end starter, 27 tackles, 1 sack. Projected nose tackle starter, 21 tackles, 1.5 sacks. Projected right end starter, 23 tackles, 2.5 sacks. So they didn't sack the quarterback a ton last year.
No, they were bad in pressure rate,
and
not just sacks.
Right. No starter returns had more than 2.5 sacks last year. So I think if UC wants to, get big and ugly and try to do it that way, I think that's a possibility. You have the two guys, you have the safety, you have the linebacker. It'll be interesting to see how Catalan matches up with Lenny and Josh. Outside of Georgia in their just absolutely absurd tight end room. I was listening to something today where they were talking about putting all three of those dudes on the field at once, and I just laughed because I was like, "Oh my god, that would be amazing." But like, how does he? Because he's not a big guy. He's not like a long, rangy type player. So how does he match up with the tight ends? If UC starts running the ball with some level of success, does that mean he comes down more? So I think their inexperience on the defensive line, especially for game 1, could be a problem for them. Because we know UC's got the experience on offensive line. We know they're going to want to run it. We know they've got Ryan Montgomery, Corey Kiner, Miles. Like, there's different dudes that they're going to want to get the ball to. It'll just be It'll be interesting. You got Bumper Pool and Drew Sanders that are the Alabama transfer that Nick Saban had some very, very nice comments about Sanders today. I think today, maybe yesterday, who knows, but just said he just got hurt and transferred and, probably would have been a starter for Alabama if he would have stayed. So, obviously has some high-level talent there. So how do the linebackers help out in the run game? Like, are they supporting more because they know UC wants to run it, and they have an inexperienced defensive line. So does that open things up in the middle of the field because the linebackers are closer to the line? Secondary wise, outside of Catalan, again, it's a lot of like one of their starting DBs transferred to LSU. They got one back from LSU, but he's in one of those kind of or positions, like not sure if he's a starter or not. Their main returning DB, Miles Slusher, I think is how you say it. He's their nickel. So he had 4 passes defensed and 2 INTs, 50 tackles. But again, everybody else that like looks to be projected starters, we're talking like 2 tackles. One guy, 2 tackles. One guy, 1 pass defense, 2 tackles. Another guy, Hudson Clark, 1 pass defense, 22 tackles. Ja'Cory Turner, 1 pass defense, 2 tackles. Trent Gordon, 2 tackles. So, I think their defense it's going to have athletes. And Sam Pittman even talked about it. I listened to his stuff from the other day. Like, he talked about, they looked at it when they first came in. And I totally agree with him. What's the fastest way to take a bad situation and at least make it competitive? And he said, initially we just tried to add as much speed as possible. And now they have tried to, obviously because of the league they're in, you can't just get along with speed alone. Now as they've gotten their foot in the door with kids and had some success last year, now they're working speed and size. So all these kids that are starters now are from those beginning recruiting classes, or maybe were even there before Pittman and them got there. So you're going to be looking at a lot of speed. They're going to have a lot of speed. I'm imagining all these DBs can run. But, similar boat to Cincinnati in that, we think that they are going to be good, but we don't know.
Right. And I was going to get to that. If you're going to say all that about Arkansas, it's fair to say,
yes, of course,
similar about Cincinnati.
Right. I'm just saying that in the sense of Arkansas media, fans, whatever, seem to be very, very high on their team, which is fine. I wouldn't expect anything else. But once I started digging, I'm I don't see a lot of this dude's played, 1,000, 2,000 snaps. Oh, this guy's got a track record of 2 or 3 years as a solid starter, especially defensively. Outside of Bumper Pool and Jalen Catalon, none of these guys to me scream
guaranteed stud.
Well, even just production, there's no production. Not saying they can't be good. Not saying they won't be awesome on Saturday.
But you also have to factor in game 1. These are all guys that are for both defenses, really. A lot of guys that have played some, but haven't been asked to carry a heavy load. And now being thrust into, let's see what you got. Can you handle 65, 70 snaps or
right.
What's your backup like in a 1B situation?
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing that you always have to take into account when you're talking SEC is I talked about the depth on the defensive line. Those dudes they were recruited to other, LSU, Georgia Tech. The Georgia Tech guy is produced. So their backups are still quality guys. And that have produced. Our backups, not that they're not quality guys, but they haven't played. So these guys are backups with decent production. So is it easier for them to cycle through? And it sounds like they do a lot of rotating. But it will be interesting for both teams, I think, because very rarely do you go up against when you run the 3-3-5, very rarely do you go up against another team that also runs it.
Right.
And I think it's they the little bit that I've heard from their side, I think there's concern about the defensive line and specifically the nose. In the 3-3-5 alignment, knowing that UC will run the ball, knowing that UC has big backs, I think if UC can move the ball running, it takes a lot of the pressure off of whoever the quarterback is.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if we want to talk about that. We'll get.
I think we've talked about it I don't know what left I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why and I would do the same thing if I was Luke, but it's gonna be Ben. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I don't think we're breaking any news.
I mean,
I get it.
That's your opinion.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is, but based on what I've seen. But I don't know. I came into this feeling pretty good that I was going to pick Arkansas, and now I'm legitimately torn.
I mean, I've kind of been the same way this week.
Because I know what they're going to want to do. They're going to want to get big and smashy because that's what Alabama did. And Alabama did it without a premier running back and without that great of an offensive line, honestly. On the Alabama scale of offensive line, that one last year was not one of their best. So Arkansas is probably going let's just get big and smashy and try to do the same thing. And we have an elite quarterback and we'll RPO him to death. And we got these big receivers and, we'll do that. And I'm but I don't know if you, I don't know. I'm not sure that is, I don't know.
I think Cincinnati has kind of a secret weapon in stopping the run this year.
Well, they're much more stout against the run this year than they were last year.
They should be. I think Ivan Pace is going to be kind of a wrecking ball in those situations.
Ivan Pace. I mean, the other thing too is because of Ivan Pace, and I would say the involvement of Jaheim Thomas, how much more 4 down do we see? Because we really didn't show any of that last year. So they would have Arkansas would not be prepared to play against much 4 down from UC standpoint. And, I feel like I'm, lightning is going to strike me down. But because I was the biggest Curtis Brooks fan last year, everything started with him. Every game that they dominated defensively, he dominated defensively.
Yeah, and I think
I think
Jawan Briggs
is better for stopping the run.
And might be better in the passing game too if he can move the center like we think he can move the center.
Brooks' game was speed with power. I'm not going to say that he couldn't power a guy because he did plenty of times, but his weapon was speed beating the center.
Yeah,
which is fine. But you can speed beat the center and they can just run by your other side.
Right.
Briggs is more of your prototypical nose that I'm going to try to occupy 2 guys, and that's where Ivan Pace comes in, and what
and Will Huber, who's really good downhill.
But yes, he is. But I mean, Ivan, we've seen MAC level, whatever you want to say, but that's his thing. Is you go, you block it up. I'm gonna go heat-seeking missile, and I'm gonna take care of it. So it's super interesting from that regard because what if UC just comes out and plays a bunch of 4 down?
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think it is.
Personally.
But are they more capable to switch to that if things aren't going great against the run this year than they were last year?
Yeah, because Yeah, yes, because you move Jabari Taylor inside or you bring Dante Corleone in. Either way, you're much more suited. If they really wanted to, and a team's gashing them, you put Briggs and Corleone next to each other.
Right.
Teams aren't running up the middle. It's not going to be there.
So, I'm just interested to see. There's just a lot of. I think Arkansas is rightfully, getting a good amount of pub. Like, you bring back a quarterback like that, you bring back an offensive line, you bring back 2 defensive players that are high level. You're definitely a top 25 team.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm also looking at, like, taking the Georgia game out because Georgia beat the crap out of everybody. Bama beat you or Auburn beat you by 15. Like, they're a mess. They were a mess last year. LSU was a mess last year. You beat them 16-13 in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
You gave up 51 or 52 and lost to Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got like a really good 20-10 win against Texas A&M. And say what you will about Texas, but they kicked the shit out of them, 40-21. So like, which one of those of these, and they kept it close with Bama. Like, which one of these teams are they going to be? Are they going to keep it close with Bama and beat Texas A&M, or are they going to be like almost lose to dumpster fire LSU and get the crap beat out of you by like real bad Auburn?
Now they are notorious for starting hot and finishing cold, right?
You mean like in the game itself?
No, I mean like season-wise, or at least that's like I've seen a lot of reference to that when reading about them.
No, I mean they went 9-4. I mean they beat Penn State in the bowl game, so they went 8-4, 9-4.
I'm sure some of that is also when you play in the SEC West, like
where's your like terrible schedule when you have like back before LSU got bad, like when you're just going like Bama, LSU, Auburn, like
A&M,
Florida crossover game or something like Georgia. I don't know how often they've played them, but like I mean it's like the old Big East basketball wise. Like you're 2 weeks away from a
3-game losing streak.
So I don't know. I think it's low scoring.
What do you know on their special teams? Anything?
Well, the kicker's really good, but he wasn't even like he didn't make first, second, or third team all SEC, but I think he went like 22 for 26 last year and made 46 out of 46 extra points.
I take that.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess the SEC just has really damn good kickers. I don't know. That seems like a top of the line kicker to me.
That's interesting though. 26 field goal attempts. That tells me they stalled out quite a bit.
Yeah.
I'm just saying for a team that like everybody's talking about, like their offense is going to be one of the better in the country. Like that's stalling out quite a bit and putting your kicker on the field.
Yeah.
SEC defense, I guess.
I agree. I mean, they had 11 touchdowns from Burks, 6 rushing from Jefferson, another 7 from Dominic Johnson. So that's 20, almost 30 plus passing touchdowns. So,
I'm with you. Like since we've gotten into this offseason, I've been kind of the belief that veteran quarterback playing at home, first game of the season, you get the nod. Like you get you get an advantage from me.
Mm-hmm.
But I've talked about this a couple times this week. Like we know the wide receiver room is very good. PFF just had the linebacker room graded second in the country.
Right.
Pete Thamel just told me this week the only tight end group he'd take over Cincinnati is Georgia. Like you're still, we're very high on the defensive line bunch. We're not completely sold on the secondary yet, but it's not like they got torched all camp.
No,
by a
that's
very
more.
good
That's
group of
more
wide
of like
receivers.
a. That's more. There's all you know. Every year there seems to be a position where we feel like we like the talent, but it just hasn't. They haven't had the opportunity. I remember the one year it was defensive line. Like we
Last
like
year was linebacker.
right.
Really?
We like the guys, but they just haven't played. So like, can they be good? And they were. And Cope and Kamani and Cortez. And
Well, but the question on the D line was after they left.
right.
After those three guys left, can they be any good? And then here came the next wave of guys, Elijah Ponder and Brooks and Brown and Maje, and
Right.
all of a sudden, defensive line's a strength. It wasn't the weakness that we thought it might be in the offseason.
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from.
I just look at I feel like I know what they're going to try to do, and I think UC is a much better this year equipped to stop that.
Yeah,
that's what I keep coming back to. Is
we haven't talked about this maybe enough.
Bryles, I mean, Kendall Bryles is their offensive coordinator, so they're a Bryles system, but it's the RPO elements of it, not the air raidy elements.
They want to run.
Oh
yeah,
sure. I mean, they got a quarterback that is
bigger
than everybody, bigger than most of everybody else's linebackers.
And really, they were the leading rushing team in the country outside of the triple option team.
The service academies and the triple teams.
So, I mean,
but like I said, two of those guys aren't playing.
But here's the other thing, Dave. Like I like Cincinnati's chances. If you're going to run, there's a good chance it's a low-scoring game.
Well, if you're going to run, you're not testing the part of the defense that we don't know anything about.
Right. I do have, I think there's one spot maybe we haven't talked about enough, simply in terms of, the biggest impact of the guys that we lost, and that's a guy we talked about a few minutes ago in Brian Cook. I like Brian Threats a lot, but is Brian Threats up to the task of stepping right in? And because Cook was up to the task of stepping in and replacing Derek Forrest.
For sure.
Right?
And Cook made a lot of plays. I mean, as a safety, he made a ton of, one of his most memorable plays was knocking the UCF lineman into Isaiah Bowers.
Yeah.
And
he was devastating in the screen game.
Is Threats ready to be at that level where, 6'5", 330 guard pulls and the tailback is following him, and it's going to be a big gain unless he can figure out a way to make that play that Cook made so many times.
Right.
Because UC does a ton of, and this was exemplified, I remember a lot in the Indiana game. They do a ton of fill and replace. Right. So Deshaun Pace will come in, and a safety will replace behind him. And Pace made a ton of tackles where if he doesn't make that tackle and that safety's not exactly where they need to be, there's nobody there.
Right.
So where is Threats along in that progression?
That's what we're going to find out. Because Cook was we just had a legendary run of safeties, and I'm not sure that Cook wasn't the best of them.
I mean, if we just go by draft position, he was by far the best.
But I'm just talking about like the stuff he did, right?
Oh, yeah.
The different ways he impacted the game. I think we get so caught up in talking about Sauce and Kobe and replacing them. Infinitely difficult challenge. But Cook might be the one that do they have a guy that can do that?
Right.
We know they don't have a guy that can do what Sauce did.
Well, yeah.
There's been UC football for 100 and how many years? There's never been one of those.
No. No, I mean, how do you respond to the first game element and also the road element? Like last year, first half at Indiana, atrocious. This is twice as many people and much more rabid.
And a much better team.
You can't be, first and 15, second and whatever the entire first half and think you're going to come back and score 20-something points in the second half. I feel dumb for saying it, but like obviously you can't have a bunch of turnovers. We've talked ad nauseum over the last few years of like if we don't do something stupid, these teams can't score enough points to win. That was also with the quarterback that we felt pretty confident 9 times out of 10 was going to do the right thing with the football. I think we feel confident to some extent, but nowhere near where we've been. So how does that manifest itself? And, can you get off the field? Like if they do what they want to do, then we're not going to win.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you taking the Bearcats?
See, here's the other problem with that. Is because I have quite a streak going. In predictions.
Yep.
And if I take the Bearcats, that means that I'm going to say they're going to go 12-0.
Right.
And I just don't know if I can say that. Like, because if they go into Arkansas and win, who am I going to go get? They're going to lose to them.
Are you taking the Knights of Gold in the bounce house?
No.
Are you taking SMU?
That's a damn principle thing. Like I rip on those guys for like never picking against UCF. At this point, I'm like, I can't pick them just based on principle. But that's the thing is like if I say they beat Arkansas, then I can't say they're going to lose anybody else.
Right. If they lose to if they beat Arkansas, they're going to jump into the top 15, maybe the top 10, and be favored
every game.
Every game until maybe the conference championship game.
I mean, assuming they don't lose, any other games and whatnot.
Well,
I mean, I could see if UCF is undefeated when they play and UC's undefeated, I could see UCF being favored. I mean,
it's a pick 'em 2
right,
points.
It's a possibility, but that's the thing is like I've always kind of sat on this 11-1, 10-2 line. But now that I've done like more research on this game, like I feel more confident that UC can win. But if I say UC wins, I kind of have to say they're going undefeated. And I don't want to say they're going undefeated because that's really hard to do. And they just did it. And
twice.
So
twice.
I'm gonna say Arkansas wins 27-24.
I think I'm going Arkansas 24-23. So we're right in the same.
But we're making 3 field goals, or we're scoring like 3 touchdowns and a safety.
I mean, there's there's a lot of ways to get to 23. A lot of ways to get to 23.
Yeah, what?
3 touchdowns, a field goal, and a missed extra point. No, 24 and a missed extra point takes you down to 23.
Yeah.
Should we be worried about Ben through 7 interceptions in the MAC?
Without watching all of their games and knowing what they were trying to do, I can't. I don't know. Like, it's not even that many. First of
right.
all. I mean, we're talking about how
it's like a half an interception a game.
We're talking about how great KJ Jefferson is taking care of the ball. It's 3 more interceptions than he threw. And I bet Ben threw the ball more than 294 times.
Yeah.
I could be dead wrong, but knowing
Reed, I'm worried that you're just looking for things to worry about. That's what I'm worried
about. But I'm just gonna say it's a good game. I'm gonna say that there's not, hopefully there's nothing, no massive thing that cost the Bearcats, and you just, you maybe just get beat because the other team's got a really, really good quarterback and they're playing at home. And they got a lot of other talent on the field. Like,
those are the two things for me, Dave. Veteran quarterback, really talented, and you're playing at home in week 1.
Bill Conley does like the matchups too, where he goes inside the numbers, and it was like a 20. Obviously, the points don't necessarily equal how football scoring works, but it was like a 29-26 Arkansas game. So I mean,
right.
he thinks it's his formulas say it's going to be super close. I mean, yeah, 408 passes. So he threw the ball over 100 more times than Jefferson, and threw 3 more interceptions.
With a disaster for an offensive line.
I mean, totally different setup.
Disaster.
No first round wide receiver, that's for sure.
Right. I mean, KJ Jefferson is very good, but throwing to Treylon Burke, like that makes you a little bit better, because that guy's going to go make me a play. I'm just going to take the snap and throw it to him.
So I mean, that's kind of where I sit. I don't like to do it, but I try to be as honest and I definitely don't ever want to be considered a homer, because that's not fair to people that listen to us and know that we see things. And then if I'm on here telling you like, oh yeah, your UC's great, they're going to win by 20, and then they lose by 10 or something, like, people be like, well, Dave doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Playing in the SEC is not hard, Reed. You don't have to go to Lubbock. Duh. Going to Lubbock is hard. That's what's hard. You ever been to Lubbock? It's hard.
Getting to Lubbock's hard.
Getting out of Lubbock was hard, was I think Hug's point.
Yeah.
It wasn't getting there, it's getting back. Crypt Keeper, you mean to tell me I spent $200 on ribs just to lose? Come on, guys. Look, man. We're just honest. I'm just being honest.
I mean, I could sit here and tell you they're going to win, but like, I don't know.
I think it's going to be a close game, and home field and veteran quarterback, like, that means something. Has to mean something.
Yeah,
all right.
Because it's the same. It's a lot of the same things we would say last year.
Right.
Like, we're at home. We got Dez. Like, granted, we also had a defense that, like, those teams that we played couldn't score on, whatever. But like, if we use that as a reason that we would be good, why? I mean, I would be an idiot to not use it for another team.
Right. Keith, late joining. Will Dave and Dan be joining us at the Grail watch party? No. We covered that. Dave has been to one watch party. It was a loss, and he vowed never to return. And I also told him he wasn't allowed to return.
And honestly, and this is not against anyone, I do not like watching teams that I really care about in public situations.
I don't either. But Aaron can attest to that. Aaron, I about snapped on the one game he came to last year, because he kept slapping me in the shoulder every time something went good.
I was like, yeah. And
I remember
terrible back.
When I was a much younger fellow. We were at a Damon's, if you guys remember a Damon's.
Up on the hill?
No, this one was in Middletown.
Okay.
And Bearcats, Arizona college basketball game. And the whole game, I'm pretty much like telling my parents, like, we need to leave. I don't like this. We need to leave. And then Miles Simon hits a 75-footer at the buzzer. And I just looked at him and I was like, see, I told you that's why we need to leave.
Nailed it.
Dave also locked himself in a room during the Pitt game.
No, I didn't lock myself in my room. I came down to get beers as I needed.
Well, I mean, you can lock yourself in the room and still let yourself out.
I mean, they were playing like shit in the first half when I was watching it with a bunch of people, and they came back and won when I was watching it by myself. So, like, what do you want me to say?
I'm not saying you were wrong. Why are you defensive?
I'm not being defensive. I'm just saying, like, this stuff, I do this stuff for a reason.
So no, Dave will not be there. And Dan's busy right now.
Yeah,
we efforted Dan tonight, but that's a man that's got a lot going on tonight.
Yeah, we'll get into some. I've had some communication with Dan, so we'll get into that at some point tonight. But
let's get this season preview banged out. I don't think this is.
I cannot wait to talk about all these fine American Athletic Conference programs. Yeah.
All right, Kennesaw State. I think we feel good. This is going to be a win.
I do, but here's one thing I will say. I think it could be sloppy for two reasons. One, coming off the Arkansas game. Two, they run the triple. And an FCS team running the triple is literally going to try to not do any possible play that they could screw up.
Right.
So they're going to be as conservative as
fullback
possible.
Fullback dive.
Bleed the clock and, do everything they can to keep the ball and not get run out of the build. I mean, granted, they probably think they're going to, but it could be sloppy in that regard because, UC coming off a game, whether they win or lose, at Arkansas, big environment, coming home, triple option team. They know that they're more athletic, more bigger, all those things. So not saying that they're going to lose by any stretch, but it could be an ugly game.
Fair. Miami at Paul Brown Stadium.
Are they going to try to win?
I don't know. They start with maybe Kentucky is their game they tried not to win this year.
Yeah, they open up with Kentucky.
Because that's what it was last year. It was the season opener. They were coming out of camp, and they were just we're not going to play our guys. But then the next week, they almost beat Minnesota, right?
I don't know if I won't go as far as almost, but they definitely went back and forth for a little bit and hung in there and definitely seemed to get more effort in that game than they did in the UC game. I think they've got they got a version of their Kennesaw State game in between.
Yeah. So if you're getting ready for the MAC, that is Chuck Martin has made it very clear. Our focus is trying to win the East, play for a MAC championship,
and to me, rightfully so. They should be in the running to win the MAC again this year.
Right. So I would think week 3, you're going to need to be really dialing it up to get into the MAC.
Ready to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're still going to get the shit beat out of them.
Okay. Indiana
stinks. Very interested to watch Illinois, Indiana this Friday. Illinois has already played, had a pretty solid game against Wyoming. I'm not sure how good Wyoming is, but Illinois did some offensive things. They brought in a new offensive coordinator who is kind of the antithesis of Bielema and run ball and all this stuff. But that one will tell me a lot because I think Illinois might pound them. And if they do, then that does not bode well for the Hoosiers coming to Nippert in week 4. I do not. They didn't win a Big Ten game last year, and I don't think they're any better.
They were really banged up, but I don't know that solves their problem this year because those guys aren't returning for the most part.
No, I mean I don't see a ton of. UC has a lot more overall talent than them.
Yeah. What do we have next? Start of American Conference play. Tulsa, October 1st in Tulsa. Those people are delusional, but that team, for some reason, really truly believes that Cincinnati ducked them in 2020, and that they have some kind of revenge out for the Bearcats.
Okay.
It's fascinating.
How many years do you get to get your revenge?
I don't know. I'm so confused by it. Cincinnati missed multiple weeks because of COVID. The president of Tulsa was like, nah, fam, we cool, stay home. and their fan base and their idiot reporters latched on to this like Cincinnati ducked us.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know.
Anyhow. Yeah.
They've had success running the ball against UC. They're also
They lost a lot on that line finally,
well,
didn't they?
two
line is massive.
Two starters for sure that I'm aware of without
Digging
doing an actual game preview. At Tulsa, there's not going to be a lot of people there. I mean,
there will be for Cincinnati. I guarantee it. Like they genuinely feel like they've been shorted.
They got 26,000 2 years ago for the Oklahoma State game.
Yeah, you're right. There ain't going to be a lot of people there.
So there ain't going to be a lot of people. I mean, I think UC will win, but that's all. I'm not going to say
it's ugly.
I'm not going to say that's a trap situation, but who the hell knows when you go to freaking Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Let's see. They've got, before Cincinnati, they've got Wyoming.
Not good.
Northern Illinois.
Good, but we'll
Usually
see how
good.
they were really good last year, but they won an insane amount of like very close games and made wild plays at the end of these games to win. So like, does that regress?
Oh man, this is a testament to how bad attendance is at Tulsa, like as a whole. The first 5,000 fans get a free T-shirt to that game, and then $1 hot dogs, $1 sodas, and $1 popcorn. If you're pulling out the dollar dogs, you're begging people to come to your game.
Or just like the first 5,000 people?
Right, just the first 5,000. That means we might get 6.
Like usually it's like everybody, or the first like 10,000, 15,000. Like
maybe they don't have many T-shirt makers in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Jacksonville State is after that.
Not in Jacksonville, Florida.
No, in Alabama. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're good. They're good. Pretty good FCS program.
And then Ole Miss.
Oh, they'll get their brakes blown off against Ole Miss. They might score some points, but Ole Miss is going to score about 50.
That's the game before UC.
Ooh, that's
September 24th in Oxford, and then come back home and they get Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Bearcats win.
Bearcats win.
South Florida. I would have been a lot more worried about this game if that
I don't know. Gary Bohannon led Baylor to the Big 12 championship.
I know, but I thought I liked that the kid that they ran off that went to UCF.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got. We saw it in the game last year. Like
they're moving in the right direction.
They've got some dudes, especially offensively.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good running back. A couple receivers that I was impressed with, and on various plays. I guess the questions for them, I think, is going to be the two lines. Like that's just a hard thing to get going when it was as bad as they were. But obviously, I'm going to pick UC at home.
Yeah, come on. The home winning streak's not falling to USF. And then outside of Arkansas, you get the most interesting stretch of the season. At SMU, October 22nd, and the bye week here, by the way, bye week. And then SMU and UCF both on the road start with SMU.
I've heard good things about what Rhett Lashley has done. He seems to be like a...
Are they still going to be soft as shit? That's the question.
That's the question. I mean, he seems like he's a super organized dude. He's got, the structure was there already because he was there and then went to Miami and now has come back. So he's got familiarity with the roster.
Why does he sound like a pro wrestler?
I feel like he sounds like a country singer.
Or a country singer. Well, those are interchangeable, right?
Yeah,
like
some
country singer, pro wrestler, like that. The names can be like mixed and matched.
Like I'm just not going to pick UC to lose to frickin' SMU because of how soft they've been the last few years.
Right. Like that's the primary thing for me.
And they're built offensively, and they're one of, if not their leading rusher, transferred to Ole Miss. Two, Danny Gray got drafted by the 49ers. I think Reggie Roberson's gone too. So like two of their big play wide receivers from the last couple years are gone. Their tight end, Grant Calcaterra, is gone. Like their defense has not ever really been that good.
Right.
In any of these runs, it's always been about offense. And UC's punched him in the mouth 2 years in a row. And especially last year. Damn, that it's like the one full game on YouTube that I cannot find. I've watched like pretty much every other game from last year. I've been able to find the full game, and that one I just can't find it for some reason. Kind of like how we can't find episode 12 of The Hilltop.
That's because I don't think episode 12 of The Hilltop was ever made.
No, it was made. They just didn't air it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because there's an episode 11. So why would they have stopped filming?
Because they got their ass kicked.
They would have still filmed that week, though.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have filmed after the game ended.
Well, no, the whole thing is like the lead up from the week before and then into that next week's game. Unless the whole Sonny Dykes thing, unless like there was too much going on with Dykes possibly leaving. But like that still, I mean, some people might think that it's a ridiculous thing, but I will never not think it's funny that they just stopped a show on ESPN Plus.
After 11 weeks.
After 11 weeks because you got your doors blown off. Like UCF got their doors blown off. They filmed their show, kept filming it.
That quarterback's back, isn't he? The guy from Oklahoma?
Tanner Mordecai, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's back.
They're talented.
Oh, that's never been, I don't think that's ever been the problem.
No. It's just that when they got punched in the mouth, they went, I
don't think they have a lot of talent on defense. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Offensive talent's never been the problem.
So you've got to win there.
Yeah.
All right. In the jump house, the bouncy house, the bounce room, jump room, whatever. The Orlando Community College. October 29th.
Very interested to see what Gus does with John Rice Plumlee. This fits way back into his mold of like when Nick Marshall was his quarterback at Auburn and they went to the national championship.
Yeah, he wants to RPO you to death, right?
He wants a running quarterback. And he can run. He's got wheels. He can run. But just like you got to be able to throw a little bit. He's
not good at that, right?
I just don't know. He hasn't really played outside of like spot work 2 years ago in a true quarterback situation. Like he wasn't getting meaningful quarterback snaps last year with Matt Corral at quarterback.
Clearly not.
So he's not really been a true quarterback in a game that matters in 2 years.
I kind of like the jump castle, Brian. The romper room. Like that jump castle, you think of like what your kids schedule for like their birthday party.
Yeah,
right?
the Magic Castle or whatever, like arcade and putt-putt.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. I think UC will win. I think it could be a close game. I think they will be improved from last year. They did deal with a wild amount of injuries, and everybody says like injuries are cyclical and everything, but like just because you had a bunch of injuries last year doesn't necessarily mean that you're just going to be really healthy this year.
See, this is how you get a comment on the screen.
There you go. Thank you, Richard.
Smiley, thank you for the $4.99. Appreciate the love. We are at the beginning of an awesome season and leaving the dumpster fire American Conference. Richard is watching Big 12 games. That's something I'm curious about, Dave. Do people want Big 12 content this year?
I mean, do they want Big 12 content over over any of us talking about the rest of the AAC? Well, I'm sure they do, because relevant football is always more interesting than non-relevant football.
Yeah.
Like I'm not any more inclined.
That's a blind spot for me right now.
I'm not any more inclined to talk about an Iowa State TCU game than I am to talk about an SMU Tulsa game. Like I don't care
That's
to
fair.
talk. I don't care to talk about either of them right now.
Right, that's fair.
Because the Iowa State TCU game has no bearing on the Bearcats, and the Tulsa SMU game sounds like I'd rather gouge my eyes out with a pen. So I'm not going to watch it.
It's fair. It's more than fair.
So no, I don't think we need to start talking Big 12 stuff quite yet.
So we have them 2-0, and this is the part that I don't think, like, they open with 3 of 4 on the road. Tulsa, SMU, UCF.
Right.
If they are 4-0 in the American on, like, you know, at the end of
October,
I mean, come on. Navy at Nippert.
Oh God, will they score?
Probably not.
Okay, moving on.
East Carolina in Nippert.
Oh, Mike Houston's final frontier.
Holton Ahlers.
The Pirates' last stand.
Holton Ahlers tries to beat the Bearcats for the first time in his 10-year career.
Oh yeah, that ain't happening.
No.
I like where they're going.
I do too.
I think they are. I think they will finish in the top half of the league. I'm very interested to see what they do against NC State this weekend. NC State is getting what I think is maybe quite a bit of hype because Devin Leary is like a pretty good, really good quarterback, but they are replacing a lot, especially on the offensive line.
Everybody's talking about NC State as like the second best team in the ACC.
Well, that's not saying a whole lot.
That's how bad the ACC is, of course. But yeah, Cincy is ECU Super Bowl. There's no question about that.
I mean,
but
I would still put until I see otherwise. Like I'm gonna trust Mario. What's his last name? Miami's coach.
Cristobal.
Yeah, I'm gonna trust Mario Cristobal and Van Dyke, their quarterback, and where he has them going to be better than NC State. Like and NC State, every year that there's hype around NC State, they're shit the bed.
Yeah.
So, but I am interested to see how ECU does in that game.
I am as well. But we both have the Bearcats over ECU. We both have the Bearcat. Well, Temple. Ooh.
One final trip to Philly. Katie barred the door. That sucker is going to be pandemonium up there.
There should be, by that point in the season, there will be hundreds of people in that stadium.
Will there be?
100.
I mean,
people.
Lots of Bearcat family members will probably go.
100 people in the NFL stadium.
I mean, you got a new coach. You got a roster that, God, I mean, like, such a departure from like the Matt Rule and even Jeff Collins era, where like those defenses had some legit dudes on them, and man, that is a bad situation. Bad situation.
Todd's probably right. Tens of people.
Tens of people. So like somewhere between 11 and 19.
And then finally, Tulane, Nippert Stadium, Senior Day, November 26th. I keep hearing like this is Tulane's year over and over again.
Yeah, Willie Fritz, man. I mean, I think they have a good quarterback. Their main running back, I believe, was out for our game last year. Pretty good player. They just don't have the dudes on defense. Like that's the thing is when these group of 5 teams, it's very hard to have both units
Right.
peaking at the same time, and then to also carry that over from year to year,
Right.
where you can sustain success, like UC has. Like you can have a year like UCF 2017, 2018, like unbelievable offense, good enough defense to support unbelievable offense.
Right.
But that is the high end. So like when we talk about SMU having weapons on offense, or Tulane having Michael Pratt, who I like at quarterback, and having some weapons, but like, who are they stopping? Without the other team, shooting themselves in the foot multiple times. And UC being that other team that is, yes, replacing premier players, but
you're talking November 26th,
but has been recruiting premier players,
right?
And
you're talking the experience part is out the window.
Sure, at that point, I mean, assuming there aren't like, hellacious injuries and
right
and things just like totally fall off the rails. Yeah, all those dudes that were wondering like, can they, like, we think they can play, but can they play? Like, we'll certainly know by then.
Right.
And if they can't play, somebody else is going to be playing. That's the thing, is we're not without reinforcements if things don't go well.
Right. Very much so. Very true. So we're both at 11-1.
Yeah.
Undefeated in the American.
Correct.
Is that enough to host the championship game over? I mean, we're both pretty much in the same boat. It's UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, right? At the top of this conference.
Yeah, but I mean, like, to me, like, if Houston doesn't go undefeated, I'm going to be pretty not upset because I don't care. But, like, I fully expect them to go 12-0.
If they're 12-0 and Cincinnati's 11-1, they will be rated higher. That game will be
in Houston, I would assume. I mean,
in Houston, yeah.
They don't have. See, the thing though is like, even if UC loses to Arkansas, I wonder, like, Houston has no game.
And Texas Tech, right?
UTSA and Texas Tech, like, they have no game that will vault them to some position that an 11-1 UC team couldn't catch. So if they're 12-0 and UC's 11-1, but they're 12-0 squeaking by these shitty teams, and UC's 11-1 dog walking everybody besides Arkansas, being that it's a committee and not, like, I could very easily see them being like, yeah, UC's just better.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, there's our schedule conversation that we do every year. It's usually the week before game week, but Dave was gallivanting in the Upper Peninsula with Dan Simon at the Conference Realignment Summit, and apparently, Dan joined us on the BBP on Monday, and he said that big things were happening. And I'll be damned, he was right.
It's almost as if being a conference realignment expert means you know things.
Right. B. Meyer, I have an answer. We just answered this question.
Four. I understand what he's saying, though, or her. I don't know if it's a guy or girl.
But we made it very clear at the beginning of that segment. Like, this is, if we think they're going to lose a game, we're both going to be very open and honest about. I think this is a spot that they lose. I picked them to go 11-1 last year. I picked Notre Dame as a loss. I was wrong. Dave picked 12-0. The year before, we picked them to go undefeated in the regular season. Guess what they did? Went undefeated in the regular season.
If I was betting a amount of money that truly mattered on an exact number of regular season wins, as the question says, I would bet it on 10.
You just don't know where the surprise loss would be.
Right. Like, we're going game by game, and so I'm just going like, yeah, they'll beat that team. But if you told me, like, bet $100,000 and you have to put it on a specific number of wins, you don't have to tell me which games they lose, I would bet the money on 10.
Okay. You would hedge your bets.
Yeah.
But caveat being, if they hit 11, you don't win.
No, right.
Okay.
I just think, if we're betting money, I think the most likely outcome.
So like a roulette wheel, you have to bet the number.
Yeah.
You think the number is 10.
Most likely outcome if we're betting, I think, is 10.
Okay. But for this exercise, you think 11.
Correct. Because there's no money involved. Only my accountability.
You picked them to go 12-0 one year. They went what?
6-6. Let's not talk about that. It was just they were just a few plays away.
Yeah. You want to go back over the scores that season?
Not really. Scared money don't make money.
I hear you. All right, let's get to the other news of the day. Where do you want to start?
Let's start Big 12 TV thing.
So there was a lot of clarity that came throughout the day. They didn't open their exclusive negotiating window.
No,
they just said we're open for business.
We'll talk in person so we can get actual numbers, not projections,
Right.
and get an idea of if we do this, then what? If we do this, then what? Because if you open the window, that means that eventually it has to close. And it either closes.
Which is what the Pac-12 did. The Pac-12 opened.
No, hold on. I've heard that is not what they did.
That's what everybody said they did.
Right. That's what a lot of people are insinuating they did. But this seems to be the same thing because if you've noticed, no one.
That window never closed.
Exactly. No one's come out and said, like, it's been 30 days. The window's closed.
And it was like 60 days ago.
It's very end of July.
Yeah. So we're going on 60 days tomorrow.
No, we're like a little over a month.
September. There we go. Okay. Sorry.
Or when it basically might have been the end of June.
No, the 30 days was supposed to be closing like 3 weeks ago.
It was a few days after.
Right when the Big Ten deal happened.
Right.
Was when the window was supposed
UCLA.
to close.
Yeah. Either way, like this
Whoa.
is what? Whoa, hey-o. It seems like a lot of things going on.
You okay if I block that one, Aaron? Is that all right?
How do you post 5 comments at the same time? That's what I want to know. Good God.
It's a good bot program.
Man.
How come you didn't ask me if I wanted it blocked?
Because you're not, you're no Dan Simon. You don't have access to that stuff. Yeah, but so this is flexing on the Pac-12 right now, right?
I mean, here's the thing. Like, one, it's essentially taking away what some people believed was the Pac-12's advantage.
Right.
Because they were in conversations with the networks and the Big 12 wasn't, and they could get real numbers, and the Big 12 was, I don't know what the Big 12 was getting, if anything. But like, the Big 12 deal doesn't need to be discussed for like over a year. It doesn't expire for 18 months. So if you don't think, or if you don't have some inkling that things are going to be at worst the same, and if not better, you wouldn't even do this. You would not even, because like, why would you even have those conversations if you knew that your next deal was going to be for less? You're like, well, we're just going to ride this one out for a year and a half. Like, they're not going to have these conversations. I just can't see how they have these conversations with ESPN and Fox and then go, nope, we're going to now wait a year and a half and take this thing to the open market, knowing that the two partners that we're with now are not going to give us more money than they were going to give us then.
Right.
So, you know, I don't know
and
how.
Just to be clear, we reached out to Dan Simon. He said it's been a busy day. He's
Obviously
got a lot
busy.
going on.
Obviously,
And he gave you some morsels, some nuggets of information.
You know, Dan asked is very funny. Dan asked what this, you know, on his new Twitter page. So if you're not following Dan yet, jump on.
At realignment DS, I think
Yes,
I saw was the Twitter handle, right?
Yeah. He asked, you know, what does this mean for OU Texas? Is Fox, because Fox, you know, wouldn't want to let them leave early because it lowers the value of the current deal.
Right.
ESPN obviously wants them early. So does ESPN pay more money? Does ESPN cover their exit fee and buyout to get them into the SEC faster, knowing that they can spread that money over the life of the new contract, which I'm thinking will be in the 5 to 7 year range. I don't think we're going to see these super long contracts anymore. Hence
no, everybody's looking at the ACC and going, we don't want that.
Even the SEC, their deal goes to like 2034.
Yeah.
So like the Big Ten is literally running circles around everybody doing this deal, and then it's going to come up again in 7 years before the SEC's deal even comes up.
They're going to essentially double dip on the SEC.
So that's what the Big 12 should do. 5 to 7 year deal.
Right.
Have that come up again. Actually, I would wait and see what the Pac-12 does, and then have it do whatever deal that you want to do a year before theirs expires. Or maybe you go first because you're more the media partners see more value in your properties. But you know what is, because we've talked about this for how long, that I've never ever thought that the OU and Texas would be in the Big 12 in 2025. That they've constantly talked about it, that, you know, we're going to see through that. I've never believed that. And this now seems to be maybe the start of an out for them.
Right.
To get out in July 1 of 2024, and you know, it makes ESPN happy. You figure out a way to make Fox happy. And I saw an interesting one today from, Greg Fluger, I guess is his name. He's also a conference realignment expert.
He's no Dan Simon.
He was talking about how like everybody seems to be making out in this deal except for Fox. What do you think Fox would want in this deal? Like the Big 12 would make out because they're getting a new deal with more money. Oklahoma and Texas make out because they get to leave early and go to the SEC. ESPN makes out because they get Oklahoma and Texas early. What do you think Fox would want to allow this to happen?
Good question.
I got an idea.
Okay, let's hear it.
Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado.
Of course.
Or some,
and then the Pac-12's dead.
I'm just throwing those four out because they're the ones that get talked about the most. So yeah, I think Brett Yormark is doing his job. But I think, you know, our friends on the West Coast, I get a kick out of like the nonstop Pac-12 PR campaign that goes on. Like, what was it?
So brutal, man.
Several
So
people, and I'll
brutal.
just read one of them because it encapsulates the whole thing. Is like, let me see if I can find it real quick. But our buddy from Wildcat Authority, Jason Shear, he's like, why Oregon and Washington talking to the Big Ten and the Big 12 opening up his window is good for the Pac-12 from John Canzano. Like,
Yeah.
every article is like, yeah, this happened, but this is why it's actually good for the Pac-12. It's like, no,
with a bunch of bullshit information.
right. Like, I mean, I guess we can wrap these all into one thing because they kind of all correlate. Like Brett McMurphy tonight, Washington is the latest Pac-12 school to meet with the Big Ten about its conference. Huskies meeting comes a week after Oregon and Big Ten met in Chicago. Big Ten targeting 4 Pac-12 schools and Notre Dame. So, like, at what point? Here's my thing. Nobody knows. I'm sure the Pac-12 is further along with numbers. Obviously, the Big 12 is just starting this process. But at what point does an Arizona just say, screw this? Like, all of you guys, whether it's Oregon, Washington, Stanford, Cal, whoever, like, you are all, and rightfully so, like, looking out for your best interest, and you have determined your best interest is not in the Pac-12.
Right.
Well, now I'm going to look out for my best interest. And while the Pac-12 might stay together because the Big Ten might never want those teams, is that a risk you're willing to take? Right. At what point does the risk just get too great to where you're like, I can't sit around here and wait every year to see if they decide to move or if they decide to be, invited. It's not like you're
essentially being held hostage by those.
Well, I always love the president wasn't there, and this was what was said with Oregon. Well, the president wasn't there, and the AD wasn't there, and Kevin Warren wasn't there, so it's not a big deal. The fuck it isn't. Somebody from the Big 12 or Big 10 and somebody from your school are having conversations about what whether it's lawyers, whether it's consultants, that maybe they're just swapping information. I don't know.
Board of Regents or like.
But someone representing Oregon and Washington and someone from the Big Ten are talking together about those teams joining.
Right.
So it has to be something. It might not be they're joining tomorrow, but it can't just be nothing. And that's the part that cracks me up is like this stuff just gets like washed off. Like, oh, it's no big deal. Why would they want to do that? This would never happen.
This is the stuff that never leaks.
The important people aren't even there. Like, okay, keep saying it. Because if it was never going to happen or it doesn't make sense, then no one from each party would be talking. And no one from each party would be letting it get out.
Right. That's what I was getting at. This is the stuff that never gets out. They want it out. People are talking for a reason.
Yeah, because Oregon
and Washington. That's how this works.
Oregon and Washington know that whatever deal they get in the Pac-12 is going to suck.
Right.
And they're not going to sign anything that ties them to that. So if you're any of those other schools and you know that Oregon and Washington are not going to sign anything that binds them to that conference, why do you want to be in that conference, regardless of the money part of it? Like, this was the thing I laughed about how many months ago, a month ago, when all those guys would be like, well, nobody wants the Big 12 team, so like they're stable because nobody wants them. And I'm like, yeah, they're also not fucking dead.
Right.
Like, toot your horn about your media market and your brand and everything, but like or die. Like, stand on that hill and die. Whatever.
Well, I mean, yeah, like the only thing I will say about the Johns and Howie Mandel, as Aaron called him earlier.
I like that.
They're trying to save their jobs. Like if the Pac-12 goes away, they're kind of screwed.
Stuart Mandel's like the lead college football writer. He's not losing his job.
Well, no, I don't. His is weird. He's from out there. What, like he has?
He's from Cincinnati.
Well, but I mean, didn't he go to one of those schools?
No, he lives outside Palo Alto.
Okay, whatever.
I'm fairly confident those guys will all be okay because they'll shill for anyone, obviously.
Exactly. Well, they'll write for Oregon in the Big Ten.
I'm saying they will shill for anybody. They'll be fine.
They'll write about Oregon State and how dominant the Mountain West is.
Like, I don't care. Like, I think UC in the Big 12 is in fine shape. Whatever. I only want this to happen so that these two assholes can just get ratioed to an extent that the sports world has never seen on Twitter. Like, they have dug in for months so hard on this. And if it were to happen and Oregon and Washington leave or somebody goes, like, it will be absolute appointment viewing to see them just get destroyed.
Oh, they will get dunked on left and right.
No, it'll be amazing. Like, the old tweets that will get pulled up will just be insanely funny. And that's all I care about at this point.
That would be the only reason that they wouldn't get a job somewhere, right? Is because they have just bad information.
Well, that's never stopped people from getting hired in the media before. Come on.
Fair enough.
You didn't have any information and I hired you.
I played the fifth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, it's interesting on a lot of levels. Clearly, something is brewing and bubbling and bubbling at a level that, is not typical for this stuff.
And like, the Big 12 isn't going to put out a press release today about this 18 months ahead of when they have to. If they don't have some idea that, like, yeah, this is in our best interest to go down this road.
Right. For sure.
The shit doesn't happen on accident.
It's a lot of smart people. Except the Johns.
Yeah. I mean, the Big 12 is probably like, okay, well, we feel like we're in an advantageous position. We might be able to grab these schools, but we need to show them, like, legit numbers.
Right.
Not projections, not what we think, not something based off of a consultant. Like, let's get in the room. Sounds like it's going to happen in the next couple of weeks, like, legitimately, like, across the table from each other. Big 12 people, Fox people, ESPN
Big
people.
12 people, ESPN people. I doubt the ESPN people and Fox people will be in the same room at the same time. They don't like each other right now.
I don't think that that's necessary. Like, they were in the same room for the Big Ten deal. Because Fox was consulting for the Big Ten.
ESPN got shut out.
Well, that's because because NBC and CBS just wanted to pay more. I don't think there's like an acrimonious, like.
I think you're wrong there.
I don't see it. I've seen several people say that they don't feel it's that way. This is just about business. Like, former Fox guy on the Twitter was like.
He's a former Fox guy. Of course he's going to say that. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here.
I just looked at it as like, this is what they were getting offered, and they didn't want that level of content for that price because they're going to be exclusive with the SEC and the ACC, so they're not paying $350 to $380 million for, like, your C-level games that we're not going to put on at 7:30, obviously, because we're going to put SEC games on then.
Yeah. I think given what they're both trying to accomplish, I don't think they're exactly like passing love letters in class.
I'm not saying that they're like, buddy, but I'm not sure that they're like trying to take the other out back and whip their you know what. But
right. Fair. You got anything else on this? You want to get to the playoff stuff? I think I'm good on that. I mean, it seems like there's something
something new every day. So we'll see what tomorrow brings.
Dan told us on Monday big things were shaken.
I mean, yeah. And now everybody knows why George K wasn't at the summit.
Sometimes only the cool kids are invited. What can you say? Right?
Yeah.
Vote on Friday by the presidents on expanding the playoff. It sounds like 12 is pretty much.
Are we like are we? Is that
Aaron,
a sure
look,
thing?
Aaron,
like
Aaron.
vote happening?
Dan Simon's busy. Aaron, you can't we're in the middle. We're in the eye of the storm. He's got work to do. It's Dave's job to communicate with Dan and then, express what he thinks is happening. And when possible, we'll have Dan Simon on the show.
That's right.
But tonight, Dan's got a lot going on. Duh. No, there is a vote apparently from the presidents on Friday.
Okay, I thought there was just like a whole call, and there might be a vote because it has to be unanimous. So if they don't feel
like it's unanimous, then it automatically triggers.
Right. I feel like if they don't think it's going to be unanimous, they're not going to have a vote.
Okay.
But yes,
I also had radio all day today.
Yeah.
So I saw things in bits and pieces.
It has to be unanimous. There's a lot of hoops to jump through from contracts and all of that stuff. But the main part of it is which is just hilarious to me, that the presidents are now looking at the ADs and conference commissioners. It's like, why are you guys so dumb? Why,
right.
We're going to take over now and be the adults in the room, because someone finally showed them the number that hey, if you only have 2 years of an expanded playoff before 2026, that gets you $500 million more dollars to split between your conferences. And it's also very, very funny that the people
much of this could have been avoided.
Oh, all of it a year ago, all of it. When ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips said that they needed to take a holistic view of the sport and torpedoed the 12-team playoff that was virtually a done frickin' deal, and now comes out today and says a lot has changed in the last 3. Yeah, no kidding.
Your dumbass decision changed everything.
And the same thing with the Big Ten. Of course, Kevin Warren doesn't care now. He's got USC and but yeah, no kidding, Jim. By not doing the playoff, you turned college football on its head and allowed 2 teams from California to join the Big Ten. And now you idiots in the Pac-12 and ACC realize that oh shit, if we don't have an expanded playoff, we're probably not making the playoff for a long time. So we should probably do that. And these people are getting paid hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to do this. And I'm sitting here with you and all of our members being yeah, this wasn't that hard. Because you were angry. You were upset that, and that's
right.
That's what it is. The funniest part about it is
it's ego.
The conference that originally got shanked was for the 12-team playoff.
Right.
Bob Bowlesby was yeah, you took my 2 highest valued properties, and yet I'm still all in for this idea that you're also all in for. But the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and their stupid alliance with the ACC screwed it all up, and then the Big Ten goes, yeah, well, those two conferences screwed it up. We're the Big Ten. We'll just go take these other teams. I mean, it doesn't really matter to us if it's a 4. It's just like the SEC. It doesn't matter to them if it's a 4-team, 8-team, 12-team. They'll be fine.
I really hope at some point there's a book just called The Alliance that talks about how bad the Alliance screwed over.
I mean, are there enough? Would it be a 12-page picture book? They did nothing. The Alliance did nothing. It did have its 1 year anniversary the other day, which I thought was very funny. Yeah, but
I'm
like,
sorry, I just got a text.
The Alliance had their 1 year anniversary the other day.
Yeah. Great work, guys.
I mean, if the presidents are getting involved, it's hard for me to like. Are they going to all this? Like, apparently they've been meeting for months. So, if they've been meeting for months and they're now involved to the point of possibly having a vote this Friday, are they just all of a sudden going to go, nope, we're going to stick out through 2026? I mean, that would be a very college football thing of them to do.
Yeah.
Is to meet and discuss and say that that they're taking control over from the commissioners and blah, 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 and then just do the same thing that their crappy commissioners did a year ago.
Right. That would be the chef's kiss.
Yeah.
On their stupidity.
Because someone couldn't agree. Because here's the thing too, like, you got Mikey's going to be in there talking about, or whoever is going to be talking about, like, oh, we need automatic bids. And that's the thing, is like, there is no leader in these situations to go, everybody's not going to get exactly what they want, but this is the best thing for the greater good of everybody.
Right.
Because you run the risk of the same situation. Like the Pac-12 being like, well, we don't want at-larges because we'll never make it if there's not an automatic bid, and one vote like screws the whole thing up. And so it's like, part of you is like, they can't possibly screw this up again, and the other part of you is like, yeah, absolutely they can.
They absolutely can. We've seen this done so many times.
It's just the hilarity of it to me.
I keep reading this book, waiting for a better ending, and keep getting the same ending.
The hilarity of it to me is just the fact that, like, we're just like, so the light bulb is just now, relative term, just now gone off that, like, you mean to tell me we can make like a lot more money if we expand the playoff? Like, 2 years.
Where are the two? Remember the two Guinness guys? Brilliant.
Yeah.
Like, where are they at?
Like, 2 years of an expanded playoff is worth $500 million. And they might not do it.
Why? They're so transparent in realignment about it being about the money.
Oh, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then it's something like expanding the playoff. Well, it's not about the money per se.
I mean, think about in 2026 when they do a new deal and like every network can bid on elements of it if it expands.
Right.
So it's 12 teams. And
we get this network gets the Pac-12 game. This network gets
ESPN gets like first rounders 1 year, and then they get a championship, the actual championship, and every 3 years. And Fox gets the semifinals, and you know how much money that is worth?
What's True TV get?
This isn't college basketball. They don't get shit.
Oh, you're gonna be so mad.
This isn't operated by the NCAA.
If you got to find True TV. To watch like the 16 versus 1 game.
60 versus 1? Dude, there's national championships on. Maybe not True, but they've been on TNT and TBS.
Yeah, on Turner.
Like, no, this ain't that, man. This is like big money. The NCAA is not doing this deal.
Turner's got some money.
Yeah, they ain't got Fox, CBS, NBC money.
You're right.
But yeah, I mean, you're talking about like doing the NFL model where you have basically all of the major networks get a portion of it. You know how much they're gonna freaking bid to host the national champion to get the national championship?
Right. A lot.
And they're more willing to, like, that's the other thing is like there's no cross promotion right now. Fox has no incentive to talk about the playoff.
Nope. Why would they?
And that kills the sport. Like, could you imagine, like, the NFL, like, NBC or CBS doesn't talk ever
about the
about
NFC.
About the NFC or the NFC playoffs, and like,
Yeah.
like it's such a messed up system. Such a messed up system.
It's because
And I'm sure there's
too many
elements
Chiefs, not
that,
enough Indians, Dave.
I'm sure there's elements that we don't get and we're not thinking about and all.
Well, it's because the element is easy. They've held on to a system that was created 75 years ago and has changed drastically, but they've held to like the way that it was structured not being touched. Because what is the bowl system and the championship stuff all about? Doing whatever is possible to keep the NCAA's hands out of it and keep all the money going to the conferences. That's why, right?
Right.
That's it.
Well,
It's not that hard to figure out.
At what point, if this stuff keeps going on, and they don't do something, at what point does Greg Sankey just go, "We're just fuck you guys. We're going to keep it at 4."
Yeah.
We have the power. We have the power to do that. You don't like it? Tough shit. We're keeping it at 4.
Or we're going to 20, and we're going to hold our own championship, and everybody else can kiss our ass.
And then the Big Ten will go to 20, and maybe we play each other. Maybe we don't. Maybe we just go back.
We let the voters decide.
The old days when you had AP and coaches.
We'll let the voters pick. You want the Big Ten champion or the SEC champion? So stupid.
Yeah, but Jim Phillips being like, well, after 365 days, I feel like,
a lot has changed.
A lot has changed. Yeah. You're damn right, Jim. It sure has.
It's your fault, you dumbass. A lot changed because you're an idiot.
Like, and I'm not gonna say that if they agreed to an expanded playoff that USC and UCLA don't leave. I don't know how much that.
It changes a lot, though.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I don't know how much it necessarily changes their Pac-12.
Maybe they make less money, but they have immediate access every year to be the champion.
And you can realistically say, like, okay, if it's 12 teams, like, we got a good shot to get 2 teams, maybe.
Right.
Most years.
Right. I don't know. You got anything else?
Oh, Tonk coming in super late. To dock him some points for that, but enjoy Arkansas. I hope there's a lot.
I was going to be mad at him for missing the 100th episode of the BBP, but his dog wasn't good. He had to take his dog to the vet, emergency vet. He's okay now. Everything's good. Everything's fine. Good. But in the moment, like, that sucks. I get it. So I didn't yell at him. Dave, we're at forget 100 for the BBP.
What number is
344 episodes of this podcast.
God, people have listened to us that much. I feel bad.
344 episodes of this podcast. 6 more episodes, and we're at 350.
Well, starting Sunday morning, 9:30, we're going to be at episode 1 of the Bearcat Brunch. What's that?
High-level discussions are happening behind the scene with Taylor. I don't know if Taylor's still here, working on the edit, the logo. Tree Fitty. We're almost at Tree Fitty of this stupid podcast. I think for episode 350, we should have you and Dan Simon host the show.
That could be difficult.
Why?
I'm not entirely sure how that would work. I'm not the most technically savvy person, but that could be a bit of a challenge.
Are you saying you and Dan Simon have never been seen in the same place at the same time?
I mean, Danco Joe threw up a picture of Dan Simon from Destin, Florida today on the Twitter.
You were there at the same place at the same time. I just don't know if anybody saw you.
I was also
together.
I was also in Destin, Florida at some point this summer.
I mean, we know you and Dan Simon were at the realignment summit. We talked to both of you about driving
Correct. But I was up there to play golf with a buddy. He was up there to be
there
on
on
a
a
yacht
yacht,
and
rubbing elbows.
talk realignment. Yeah, but that is we'll see where this takes us with Dan. He seems to have been, ironically, on some info,
Unironically, in on some info,
which only helps support our thought that anyone could be a conference realignment expert.
That's just the beauty of all of
If
it.
you say things enough times, eventually you'll be right.
He only said things one time.
Well, he's batting 100. He should probably retire. Batting 1,000. He should probably retire.
He showed up one time and said some things, and all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose 2 days later. Oh.
But yeah, Sunday morning, I think 9:30 to 11. May go shorter, will never go longer. I want this to be specific time. Everybody can, get it programmed into their head if they want to join live. We're going to wrap up the game of the week. And then this week, probably going to have a lot of general college football to talk about.
What a huge week.
Now
the thing is, this week, Aaron's not going to be here.
Okay.
Because he's going to be returning home from Arkansas.
Correct.
So I'm probably just going to start it.
Sure.
And then you're on your own.
That's fine.
Okay. As long as we're good there.
I know what to do as long as I got the controls now.
Yeah, you've got the controls. You have the controls right now, don't you?
I do.
Okay.
But yeah,
You and El Jefe.
Lots of games to talk about, and we'll get a little bit into Bearcats in the pros, guys that made teams, guys that are starting, guys that might be starting.
I wanted to get to that tonight, but
soon. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before. I think there's a pretty empty space for this, and I think it's going to be different than our other podcast. This one will be pretty much the same thing every week,
right?
As far as segments, layout, especially mine and yours podcast literally just kind of goes wherever the hell it goes. We have.
You'll probably be more structured than this. We just talk.
That's not saying anything. We very rarely have any sort of idea outside of 5 minutes before this starts what we're going to talk about.
Here's what we do on this podcast. You and I talk a lot. We have 30, 40-minute phone conversations on any random day. This podcast is just hitting record on those conversations.
Correct.
That's what this show is. It's different. Steven says, honestly, I'd prefer a Yule log of Dan Simon sitting in front of a fireplace, sipping a bourbon, and smoking a cigar for a couple hours this holiday. Big 12 flag in the background. You're not a bourbon guy.
I'm not that. I don't. Dan might be.
Have you had drinks with Dan? Is he a bourbon guy?
He seems like more of a nice wine guy to me.
He does a red, a full-bodied red.
A good one though,
full-bodied, rich. It tastes like mahogany, maybe.
It better not.
Chances the keg of nails ever comes back.
I mean, I won't
say
zero, but 0.
0.3.
Yeah.
They're never getting out of that the out of conference game with Kentucky.
They have no incentive to play.
They have no incentive to play Cincinnati. None.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'm good. You good?
Yeah, I think so. Have we missed anything on the Twitter while we were talking that matters? I haven't been looking. But I figured Aaron would be chiming in if we did. So then I guess we haven't.
Timmy Trumpet played the trumpet live at your Mets game.
Well, he was supposed to play last night if they won, or if Edwin Diaz came out and they lost 4-3.
That's the only thing baseball I'm going to say, because I know how quickly you hate baseball and yet are not afraid to totally go full on baseball.
Did they win tonight?
I don't know the answer to that.
Oh, they did. Two to one.
Just know he played the trumpet.
And then I'll definitely be checking that out on the Twitter.
That tied to the Bearcats though, as you know, Timmy Trumpet and all of that.
Who is? Oh, look at conference realignment expert Dan Simon. What a hunk. I'll just say that.
I just need you to read John Cowett's comment below.
What is it? I can't read it.
Is that Dave Simone with a hat on?
I mean, there's some allegations that I'm not sure Dan would be thrilled about.
Jason Cooper says the Johns have 18 tweets about Washington leaving is good for the Pac-12.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
No.
I don't doubt it.
The Crypt Keeper says, great show tonight. Bearcats by 4 Saturday. I hope.
Hey, I like where your head's at, Crypt Keeper.
I'm with you. All right. That's going to wrap it up. He's Dave Simone. I'm Chad Brendel. We'll see you Saturday. If you're not in Fayetteville, you better be at the Banks. Holy Grail, 3:30. Bearcats, Razorbacks, pig roast. We'll see you next week to discuss the BCJ podcast. Brought to you by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com.